I stared at my laptop screen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The folder was empty. Completely empty. My presentation, 3 weeks of research, charts, client data, everything was gone. I clicked refresh. Nothing. I checked the recycle bin. Empty. 15 minutes. That's all I had before the biggest pitch of my career, and my work had vanished into thin air. My hands shook as I tried to stay calm. This couldn't be happening. Not today. Not when the senior partners were waiting in the conference room. Not when this promotion depended on me nailing this presentation. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see Jessica, my coworker, walking past my desk. She didn't look at me directly, but I caught the tiny smirk pulling at the corner of her mouth. "Tough break, Mel," she said quietly, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. She had a USB drive in her hand. Red, just like mine. My stomach dropped. In that split second, everything clicked into place. She'd done this. Jessica had deleted my presentation, and now she was going to present it as her own. Before we continue, I would like to know where you're watching from in the comment section. Also hit the subscribe button and share this video, as this will help this video to travel far so others can learn also. I sat frozen in my chair as Jessica walked confidently into the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see her setting up her laptop, chatting casually with Mr. Harris, our department head. She looked so relaxed, so prepared. Meanwhile, I felt like I was drowning. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts at once. Should I burst in there and accuse her? Should I tell Mr. Harris what happened? Would anyone even believe me? Then she started talking. I watched her mouth move, and even though I couldn't hear the words through the glass, I knew exactly what she was saying. Those were my opening lines. My introduction. My research. She was delivering my presentation like she'd spent weeks building it herself. Mr. Harris nodded along, clearly impressed. Ms. Chun, the senior partner, leaned forward with interest. Jessica was killing it with my work. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight. This was it. I was about to be erased from my own success story. And the worst part? Jessica wasn't just any coworker. We'd started here together 2 years ago. We'd been friendly. I'd even helped her through tough projects. How could she do this to me? Then something inside me shifted. Panic turned into focus. I wasn't going to let this happen. I reached into my bag with trembling fingers and pulled out my tablet. Last night, right before I left the office, I'd uploaded everything to my personal cloud storage. It was just a habit, something my dad taught me years ago. Always have a backup, Mel. Always. I'd rolled my eyes at the time, but now those words felt like a lifeline. I opened the cloud folder and there it was, my entire presentation, perfectly intact. Every slide, every chart, every word. Relief flooded through me, but I didn't have time to celebrate. I needed to act fast. I opened my email and typed quickly, "Mr. Harris, please see attached for the original version of today's presentation. I believe there may be some confusion. Melanie Torres." I attached the file and hit send. My finger hovered over the mouse for just a second before I did it. There was no going back now. I watched through the glass as Mr. Harris's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, frowned slightly, then picked it up. Jessica kept talking, oblivious. I sat back in my chair and waited. Jessica and I weren't always like this. 2 years ago, when we both got hired fresh out of college, things were different. We were both excited, both nervous, both trying to prove ourselves in a competitive marketing firm. I remember our first day. We ended up in the break room at the same time, both fumbling with a fancy coffee machine. We laughed about it. She seemed nice, normal, but I started noticing little things pretty quickly. In team meetings, if I shared an idea, Jessica would wait a few minutes and then reword it, presenting it as her own thought. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe she just processed things differently. But then it happened again. And again. She'd take my suggestions, polish them up slightly, and suddenly everyone thought she was brilliant. The thing is, Jessica had this way about her. She was charming. She knew how to work a room, how to make people like her. I was quieter, more focused on the actual work than on office politics. I thought that would be enough, that good work would speak for itself. I was wrong. Jessica understood something I didn't. In this office, presentation mattered just as much as substance. And she was willing to steal both. When we first applied to Henderson and Associates, we were in the same candidate pool. I remember seeing her in the waiting room before my final interview. She looked terrified, clutching her portfolio like it might fly away. After my interview, I saw her again in the lobby. She was close to tears. I don't think I did well, she admitted. They asked about campaign metrics, and I blinked. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Something in me felt bad for her. I'd aced that same question. So I sat down and walked her through it. How to frame results, how to talk about ROI, how to stay confident even when you don't know everything. A week later, we both got hired. She thanked me over coffee. I don't think I would have gotten this job without your help, Mel. Seriously. I waved it off. I thought we'd be a team. I imagined us supporting each other through late nights and tough clients. I pictured us celebrating promotions together someday. I never imagined she'd see me as competition, or worse, as a resource to exploit. That coffee feels like a lifetime ago now. I should have seen the warning signs then. Through the glass, I saw Mr. Harris frown deeper as he scrolled through his phone. He tapped something, probably opening my email. Ms. Chin noticed his distraction and paused, glancing at him with concern. Jessica kept talking, her voice confident and smooth, but I could see her starting to notice the shift in the room. Mr. Harris looked up at her, then back at his phone. Then he said something. Jessica's smile faltered. My own phone buzzed. An email from Mr. Harris. Melanie, please join us in conference room B immediately. My heart hammered. This was it. I stood up, smoothed down my blazer, and walked toward the conference room. Jessica's eyes found mine through the glass, and for a split second, I saw panic flash across her face. She knew. She knew something had slipped. I opened the door and stepped inside. The air felt thick. Mr. Harris gestured to an empty chair. Melanie, thanks for joining us. Jessica was just presenting the quarterly campaign strategy. But I just received an email from you with what appears to be a very similar presentation. Can you help me understand what's going on here? His tone was careful, professional, but I could hear the question underneath. Which one of you is lying? Before I could answer, Jessica jumped in. Her voice was steady, but I noticed her hand gripping the edge of the table. Mr. Harris, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Mel and I were collaborating on this project. We divided the research. She must have gotten confused about who was presenting today. My jaw almost dropped. Collaborating? We'd never worked together on this. This was my project, assigned to me specifically by Mr. Harris 3 weeks ago. But Jessica delivered the lies so smoothly, with such confidence, that for a second I wondered if anyone would believe me over her. That's not true, I said, keeping my voice calm even though my pulse was racing. This was my solo project. Jessica and I haven't collaborated on anything in months. Mr. Harris glanced between us. The tension in the room was suffocating. Ms. Chun looked uncomfortable. Jessica gave me a look that seemed to say, don't do this. After the meeting, which ended abruptly with Mr. Harris saying he needed to review both versions, Jessica cornered me in the hallway. Her friendly mask dropped. If you try to make me look bad, it's going to backfire on you, Mel. You're going to look petty and insecure. Is that really how you want the partners to see you? Her voice was low, almost threatening. I just smiled. I didn't say a word. Let her think I was backing down. Over the next few weeks, I became a different person at work. Not louder. Not angrier. Just more careful. I started watching Jessica like a hawk. I noticed everything. The way she'd linger near other people's desks when they stepped away. The way she'd skim through reports in shared folders, then present the findings as her own observations in meetings. The way she'd take credit for team wins but distance herself from any failures. And I started keeping records. Screenshots of emails. Time-stamped documents. Notes about who said what in meetings. I created a hidden folder on my personal cloud and labeled it Project Archive. Every time Jessica did something shady, I documented it. Dates, times, Evidence. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not my friends. Not my family. This was between me and Jessica. It felt strange at first, this kind of calculated watchfulness. I'd never been a vindictive person. But something had shifted in me the day she stole my presentation. I realized that being kind and working hard wasn't enough. Some people would walk all over you if you let them. And Jessica had been walking all over me for 2 years. Not anymore. Thanksgiving came, and my extended family gathered at my aunt's house like we did every year. I loved these dinners. The noise, the laughter, the comfort of being around people who'd known me my whole life. But this year, something felt off. My cousin Sarah worked in HR at a different company, and somehow the conversation turned to work dynamics and office politics. It's so important to build alliances, Sarah was saying, waving her wine glass. You can't just put your head down and work anymore. You have to be visible. Jessica would have loved this conversation, I thought bitterly. Then my mom chimed in, looking at me with concern. Mel's been so stressed lately. Long hours, I barely see her. Before I could respond, my younger sister Emma piped up. Isn't your coworker Jessica the one who's been getting all the recognition? I saw her LinkedIn. She got featured in some industry newsletter. My stomach twisted. Of course she did. Probably using ideas she'd stolen. But I just smiled and changed the subject. I wasn't ready to explain what was really happening. Not yet. Not until I had everything I needed. That night, lying in bed, I added another note to my growing file. November 26th, Jessica featured in Marketing Weekly. Check if content overlaps with my August pitch. Back at the office, I made a strategic decision. I stopped engaging with Jessica entirely. No more casual hallway chats. No more collaborative coffee breaks. When she sent me Slack messages asking for feedback on her work, I kept my responses short and professional. Looks fine. No notes. Good luck with that. She started to notice. I also requested different team assignments. When Mr. Harris was organizing the spring campaign teams, I specifically asked to work on the retail account, far away from Jessica's usual territory. He approved it without question. For the first time in 2 years, Jessica didn't have me as a safety net. No one to bounce ideas off. No one to collaborate with. No one to steal from. The change was immediate. In meetings, she stumbled more. Her presentations lacked the sharp insights they used to have, the insights that had actually been mine. She started showing up late, looking flustered. I watched her confidence crack, piece by piece. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No sympathy. Just cold, careful observation. She'd made her choice. Now she could live with the consequences. Sometimes at night, I wondered if I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. But then I'd remember her smirk, her lies, her fake sympathy. And I'd keep going. 3 months after the presentation incident, Mr. Harris called me into his office. My heart jumped. Was this about Jessica? Had she tried something else? But when I walked in, he was smiling. Melanie, the retail campaign is performing beyond expectations. The client specifically requested you for their next project. They said your strategic approach was refreshing. I want you to lead the presentation next week. Lead. Not assist. Not collaborate. Lead. Thank you, Mr. Harris. I won't let you down. As I left his office, I passed Jessica in the hallway. She was staring at her phone, but I knew she'd overheard. The walls in this office were thin. Her jaw was tight, her shoulders tense. She forced a smile when she saw me. Congrats, she said flatly. Thanks, I replied and kept walking. The presentation went beautifully. I spoke clearly, confidently, answering every question the client threw at me. Mr. Harris watched from the back of the room, nodding with approval. Afterward, he pulled me aside. You have a voice, Melanie. An original perspective. Don't lose that. I knew what he meant. He'd noticed the difference between my work and Jessica's. The pieces were falling into place. Slowly. Perfectly. And I didn't have to say a single word against her. The truth was speaking for itself. Jessica didn't take her losses quietly. A week after my successful presentation, She submitted an internal report that was supposed to analyze social media trends for our biggest client. When I opened the shared document to review it, standard procedure for all team reports, I nearly laughed out loud. She'd copied my writing style. Not just the ideas, but the actual sentence structure, the way I phrased insights, even my habit of using three-point lists. It was painfully obvious. Like watching someone try to forge a signature they'd only seen once. My manager, Paula, noticed it too. She forwarded the report to me with a short message. Is she trying to sound like you? This is weird. I didn't respond directly. I just sent Paula my original trend analysis from 2 months earlier and let her draw her own conclusions. I added a casual, for reference, smiley face with a shrug emoji. Paula didn't reply, but I knew the seed was planted. Jessica was unraveling. She'd built her reputation on borrowed ideas and stolen work, and now that I'd cut her off, she was flailing, trying desperately to replicate something she'd never actually learned how to do. It would have been sad if it weren't so calculated. She wasn't struggling because she lacked talent. She was struggling because she'd never bothered to develop her own. 2 of our teammates, Ryan and Priya, pulled me aside one afternoon in the break room. They looked uncomfortable. Hey Mel, did you hear about the Miller account? Ryan asked quietly. I shook my head. Jessica was supposed to send the final proposal files last Friday. But when the client opened them, half the documents were missing. Important stuff, budget breakdowns, timeline charts. The client wasn't happy. Priya jumped in. Jessica blamed it on technical issues. Said the files must have corrupted during transfer. But Ryan and I both saw the folder before she sent it. The files were incomplete from the start. They exchanged a look. We didn't want to say anything publicly, but this isn't the first time. She's been sloppy lately. I listened carefully, keeping my face neutral. That's frustrating. Did you tell Paula? Ryan nodded.
Yeah.
Paula wasn't thrilled. She asked if anyone else had a complete version. I paused, then said slowly, I might have the templates we used for a similar proposal last quarter. I could forward those if it helps. Priya looked relieved. That would be amazing. I sent the files within 10 minutes.
Complete.
Professional. Time-stamped from weeks ago, proving I'd been organized all along. I didn't mention Jessica's name once. I didn't have to. The contrast spoke volumes. One of us was reliable. One of us wasn't. And people were starting to notice which was which. I started building relationships I'd neglected before. Not in a fake way. I genuinely began engaging with the senior partners and team leads. I'd arrive 15 minutes early to meetings and chat with Ms. Chun about her weekend. I'd ask Mr. Harris thoughtful questions about client strategy. I volunteered for the Cross-Departmental Innovation Task Force, something I'd always been too shy to do before. Slowly, I became visible in a way I'd never been. Not loud, not showy, just present.
Competent. Trustworthy.
People started remembering my name. They started associating me with solutions, not problems. Meanwhile, Jessica was becoming known for the opposite. Missed deadlines. Incomplete work. Vague excuses. The golden girl shine was wearing off, and underneath it, there wasn't much substance. In team meetings, I noticed her getting quieter. She used to dominate conversations, always ready with an opinion or insight. Now she hesitated, second-guessed herself, looked around the room to see how others were reacting before she spoke. Her confidence, the confidence she'd built on my ideas, was crumbling. And I watched it happen with calm, quiet satisfaction. I wasn't attacking her. I wasn't sabotaging her. I was just doing good work.
Consistently.
Honestly. And letting her drown in her own mediocrity. One day in March, Renee from the analytics team approached me after a meeting. Renee was quiet, smart, and usually kept to herself. We'd worked together once on a data presentation and gotten along well. She pulled me aside into an empty office and closed the door. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice low and serious. I used to work with Jessica at her last company before she came here. My heart started pounding. She did this same thing there. There was another woman, Amanda. Really talented, creative, hard worker. Jessica attached herself to Amanda, learned everything she could, and then started taking credit for Amanda's ideas. It got so bad that Amanda quit, just walked out one day, and never came back. I stared at Renee in shock. Why didn't anyone know about this? Renee shrugged sadly. Jessica's good at covering her tracks.
She's charming.
She knows how to make people like her. And Amanda didn't fight back. She just left. I stayed quiet because I was scared Jessica would target me next. But when I saw what happened with your presentation, I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. You need to protect yourself, Mel. From that moment on, I recorded everything. Every interaction. Every email. Every meeting where Jessica tried to take credit for someone else's work. Renee started doing the same. We didn't talk about it openly, but we had an unspoken alliance. Two women who refused to let Jessica destroy another career. Jessica's first major public mistake happened in April. She was managing a project for a new client, a boutique fitness brand looking to expand their social media presence. It was a straightforward campaign, but somehow Jessica managed to mess it up. She'd promised the client a content calendar and engagement strategy by Wednesday. Wednesday came and went. No delivery. On Thursday, the client emailed Paula directly, frustrated. Jessica scrambled and sent something late Thursday night. But when the team reviewed it the next morning, it was a disaster. The content calendar had conflicting dates. The engagement strategy referenced another company's brand voice. She'd clearly copied a template and forgotten to change the details. It was embarrassing. Sloppy. Unprofessional. Paula called a team meeting. I need to understand what happened here. This isn't the quality we deliver. Jessica tried to deflect. There was a miscommunication with the creative team. I was waiting on assets that never came. But Ryan, who'd been on the creative side, spoke up immediately. We sent those assets on Monday. I have the email thread. Jessica's face went pale. The email thread told the whole story. Jessica had received everything she needed. She just hadn't done the work. She'd procrastinated, then panicked and thrown something together at the last minute. Paula didn't yell.
She didn't need to.
She just said quietly, "Jessica, I need to see you in my office after this meeting." The room went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. And I sat there, calm and composed, watching the first real crack in Jessica's carefully built image. After that meeting, whispers started spreading through the office. People were asking questions. What's going on with Jessica? Did you hear about the fitness brand disaster? Wasn't she supposed to be one of our top performers? I stayed out of it completely. When people asked me directly, I'd just say, I don't know. She's probably just overwhelmed. We all have rough patches. My responses were perfect, sympathetic without being defensive, concerned without being involved. I never badmouthed Jessica. I never gossiped. I just let other people draw their own conclusions. Because the truth was, they didn't need my commentary. Jessica's work, or lack of it, spoke for itself. And by staying neutral, I looked professional.
Mature.
Like someone who rose above office drama. Meanwhile, I kept playing the long game. I continued documenting everything in my secret folder. I continued building relationships with senior leadership. I continued delivering excellent work. Every successful project I completed was another brick in the wall I was building, a wall that would protect me and expose Jessica for what she really was. People started seeing me differently. Not as quiet, overlooked Melanie, but as someone dependable, someone with integrity, someone worth investing in. And that shift in perception, that was more powerful than any accusation I could have made. In May, Mr. Harris called a department-wide meeting. We're entering our busiest quarter, he announced, and we need strong leadership to manage the increased workload. I'll be reviewing candidates for a new senior strategist position over the next few weeks. A senior strategist role. That was a major promotion, more responsibility, more visibility, and a significant pay increase. Everyone in the room sat up a little straighter. After the meeting, Paula pulled me aside. You should apply, Mel. You've been doing excellent work lately. I think you'd be a strong candidate. My heart soared. Really? You think I have a shot? She smiled. I know you do. Just put together a portfolio of your recent projects and submit it by Friday. I walked back to my desk feeling like I was floating. But when I sat down, I found a sticky note on my keyboard. In Jessica's handwriting, "Congrats on the opportunity. May the best woman win." The words seemed friendly, but the tone felt like a threat. Over the next week, I noticed Jessica circling back into my orbit. Suddenly, she was interested in my projects again, asking questions, offering to help, leaving comments on my shared documents. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to reinsert herself into my work so she could claim involvement later. But I was ready for her. I kept everything locked, every file password protected, every idea documented with timestamps. She wasn't getting in this time. Then something unexpected happened. HR received an anonymous tip. I only found out because Renee told me. She had a friend in HR who'd mentioned it quietly. The tip alleged that Jessica had been using content from old company archives without proper attribution. Essentially, she'd been pulling language from past proposals, changing a few words, and presenting them as new ideas. "Did you send it?" Renee asked me over coffee, her voice barely a whisper. I shook my head honestly.
No.
I didn't even know about the old archives. Renee smiled slightly. Well, someone did. And HR is taking it seriously. They're reviewing her past 6 months of work. My stomach flipped. This was bigger than I'd expected. I'd been building my case quietly, but someone else had struck first. Later that day, I saw Jessica get called into HR. She walked past my desk, her face tight with stress. She glanced at me, and I saw something in her eyes, accusation. She thought I'd done this, but I hadn't. I genuinely hadn't, though I can't say I felt bad about it. If Jessica had been stealing from company archives on top of stealing from colleagues, she deserved whatever consequences came her way. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. Sometimes it works just fine on its own. 3 days later, Jessica cornered me in the break room. The space was empty. Everyone else was in afternoon meetings. She stepped in front of the door, blocking my exit. Her voice was shaking with anger. "You think this is funny? You think ruining my career is some kind of game?" I set down my coffee slowly and looked at her. Really looked at her. The desperation in her eyes. The fear. The anger. And I felt nothing. "I haven't ruined anything, Jessica. You did that to yourself." My voice was calm, cold,
steady.
"Don't play innocent with me," she hissed. "You sent that tip to HR. You've been sabotaging me for months." I shook my head. "I didn't send anything. But clearly someone noticed what you've been doing. Maybe you should ask yourself why so many people have a problem with your work." She stepped closer, her face inches from mine. "If I go down, I'm taking you with me. I'll tell them you were in on it, that we worked together." I didn't flinch. "Go ahead.
Tell them."
I have documentation of every project I've worked on. Timestamps, email chains, witnesses.
Do you?
Her face went pale. She knew she didn't. She'd been too arrogant, too confident that she'd never get caught. Now she was scrambling, looking for someone else to blame. But I wasn't going to be her scapegoat. Not this time. I stepped around her and walked out of the break room without looking back. The following week, I was called into an HR meeting. My stomach was in knots as I walked into the small, sterile conference room. Janice from HR sat across from me with a thick folder. "Melanie, thank you for coming in. We're reviewing some concerns about project attribution and workflow documentation. I need to ask you some questions about your working relationship with Jessica Torres." I answered every question honestly. Yes, we'd started at the company together. No, we hadn't formally collaborated on projects recently. Yes, I'd noticed some overlap in presentation styles. When Janice asked if I had records of my own work, I pulled out my tablet. I keep backups of everything. Cloud storage, timestamps, version history. I can show you whatever you need. For the next hour, we went through my files. Every project, every presentation, every piece of research. Everything was documented.
Clean. Clear.
Original. Janice made notes, nodding occasionally. "This is very thorough, Melanie. Thank you for being so organized." When she asked about the presentation incident from months ago, I explained calmly what had happened, the missing files, the backup, Jessica presenting my work. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't dramatize. I just stated facts. And you never formally reported this? Janice asked. I shook my head. I figured it was my word against hers. I didn't have proof at the time. Janice closed her folder. Well, you certainly have proof now. Her tone was professional, but I caught a hint of respect in her eyes. A week later, the announcement came through an email. After careful review and consideration, we've made some changes to team structure. Jessica Torres will be transitioning out of Henderson and Associates, effective immediately. It was corporate speak for fired, but legally, they couldn't say that directly. She'd been offered a mutual resignation. Leave quietly, keep your reputation somewhat intact, or face formal termination. She chose to leave. I found out from Paula, who pulled me aside after a team meeting. It's done.
She's gone.
HR found enough evidence of plagiarism and misrepresentation that they couldn't keep her. She cleaned out her desk yesterday evening after everyone left. I nodded slowly, processing the information. 2 years. 2 years of watching Jessica climb over people, steal ideas, take credit. And it was finally over. How do you feel? Paula asked gently. I thought about it.
Relieved.
Tired, but mostly relieved. Paula squeezed my shoulder. You handled this with so much grace, Mel. A lot of people would have blown up or quit. You stayed professional. That says a lot about your character. After Paula left, I sat at my desk and exhaled. Jessica was gone. She'd left without saying goodbye to anyone. No farewell lunch. No final email. She just disappeared. Like she'd never been there at all. The fallout rippled beyond just the office. Apparently, Jessica's family had been bragging about her success at Henderson and Associates. Her mom had told everyone at their church. Her sister had posted on social media about how proud she was. Now, Jessica had to explain why she'd suddenly decided to pursue other opportunities. I heard through the office grapevine that she'd told people it was a mutual decision, that she wanted to explore freelancing. My own family was curious too. At Sunday dinner, my mom asked casually, "Whatever happened to that coworker you mentioned, Jessica?" I kept my answer simple. She left the company, decided to move on. My dad, who'd been the one to teach me about backups and documentation, gave me a knowing look across the table. He didn't say anything, but I saw the pride in his eyes. That Christmas, my family gathered again. Jessica wasn't there. She'd apparently stopped coming to extended family events, keeping a low profile. No one mentioned her. The conversation flowed around other topics: my cousin's new baby, my uncle's retirement, my sister's graduate school applications. I brought wine and helped serve dinner. I didn't gloat. I didn't bring up what had happened. I just enjoyed being with people who loved me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation. It's simply moving forward and living well while the person who tried to hurt you fades into irrelevance. In January, Mr. Harris called me into his office again. This time, I wasn't nervous. I knew what was coming. "Melanie, I want to offer you the senior strategist position. Your work over the past year has been exceptional. But more than that, the way you've handled pressure and maintained professionalism has shown us you're ready for leadership." I felt tears prick my eyes, but I kept my composure. "Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'm honored." He smiled warmly. "You've earned this. We've been watching how you navigate challenges. You lead without needing to raise your voice or tear others down. That's the kind of leader we want here." Later that week, the announcement went out to the team. My new title. My new responsibilities. My new office, an actual office with a door and a window. People congratulated me. Ryan and Priya took me out for celebratory drinks. Even Ms. Chen sent a personal email. "Well-deserved, Melanie. Looking forward to working with you in this new capacity." I sat in my new office on my first day, looking out at the city skyline. It was surreal. A year ago, I'd been the quiet one in the corner, watching Jessica steal my thunder. Now, I was the one people came to for guidance. The one whose name carried weight. And I'd gotten here not by tearing someone else down, but by building myself up, by staying patient, by keeping receipts, by trusting that the truth would eventually surface. And it had. If I've learned anything from this whole experience, it's this: you don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight dirty to win. Some people will always try to take shortcuts, steal credit, climb over others to get ahead. But those people? They're building their success on sand. And eventually, the tide comes in. All you have to do is stay solid. Do good work. Document everything. Build real relationships. Be the person others can trust and rely on. When the storm comes, and it will come, you'll be the one left standing. Not because you destroyed someone else, but because you built something real. Jessica taught me that the hard way. She showed me that kindness without boundaries is just weakness. That staying quiet doesn't mean staying powerless. That sometimes the strongest move is the one nobody sees coming. I don't hate her. Honestly, I barely think about her anymore. She's somewhere else now, probably trying the same tactics with new people. Maybe she's learned her lesson. Probably not. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm focused on my team, my projects, my future. I'm focused on being the kind of leader I wish I'd had when I was starting out, someone who lifts others up instead of stepping on them. Someone who creates opportunities instead of stealing them. Someone who understands that real success isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most trustworthy one. So here's my advice. Keep your receipts.
Stay standing.
And trust that the truth always finds its way to the surface. Always.